My boss leaned closer and whispered, "Dance with me. My ex is watching. The reward is a kiss." The music swelled. Chandeliers glittered above us. Across the ballroom, her ex-husband laughed with a woman young enough to be his daughter. I was a single father, counting minutes until I could go home to tuck my child into bed. I wasn't supposed to be part of her revenge. I met her eyes and said quietly, "You can do better than this." That was the moment everything changed. The Riverstone Grand Hotel ballroom smelled like expensive perfume and ambition. Crystal chandeliers cast geometric shadows across marble floors, where 200 people in formal wear pretended to enjoy themselves. I stood near a pillar, checking my watch for the fourth time in 10 minutes. 7:30. Lily's bedtime was 8. I'm Daniel Reed, Senior Operations Manager at Cascade Industries. Father to a 7-year-old girl who thinks bedtime stories are negotiable. Widower for 3 years, though I rarely use that word. It makes people uncomfortable at work events. "You look like you're planning an escape route." The voice belonged to Marcus Chen, finance director, and the only other person here who understood why I kept glancing at the exit. "Babysitter charges time and a half after 9, I said. Marcus laughed. "Honest answer." "I like it." He nodded toward the center of the room. "She's watching you, by the way." I didn't need to ask who. Catherine Hart commanded attention without trying. Our CEO stood surrounded by board members, her posture perfect, her smile calibrated. Navy dress, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back in a way that said, "I don't have time for complications." I'd worked under Catherine for 2 years. She was brilliant, demanding, and completely opaque. In meetings, she remembered every detail. She praised good work and dismantled weak arguments with surgical precision. But I'd never seen her laugh. Not really. Not the kind of laugh that reaches your eyes. "She's had a rough week," Marcus said quietly. "Did you hear about the divorce finalization?" I hadn't. Catherine kept her personal life locked away tighter than the executive suite. "That's her business. You're one of the good ones, Reed." Marcus clapped my shoulder. "Most people here are already spinning narratives." The truth was, I didn't belong in this world of networking and hidden agendas. I came to these events because they were part of the job. I shook hands, made appropriate small talk, and left as soon as professionally acceptable. My real life happened in a small apartment where we built model rockets at the kitchen table, where bedtime meant reading 3 chapters of The Wild Robot and answering impossible questions like, "Dad, do robots dream?" Catherine's laugh cut through the ambient noise. It was her professional laugh, the one she deployed for major shareholders. Across the room, she stood with Preston Vance, our board chairman, while he told some story that required large hand gestures. I checked my watch again. "You know, she specifically requested you be here tonight," Marcus said. That made me look up. "What?" "Your name was on her list of required attendees. Usually, senior ops can skip these things." Before I could process that information, the music changed. A string quartet had been providing forgettable background ambiance all evening, but now they shifted to something slower, more deliberate. Couples began moving toward the designated dance floor area. Catherine extracted herself from Preston's orbit. She moved through the crowd with purpose, stopping briefly to acknowledge various executives. Her trajectory was clear. She was walking toward me. "Good luck," Marcus murmured, fading away with the survival instinct of someone who'd worked in corporate politics for 15 years. Catherine stopped 3 feet away. Up close, I could see the tension around her eyes, barely visible beneath flawless makeup. "Daniel, I'm glad you could make it, Miss Hart." I kept my tone professional. "Catherine," she corrected. "We're not in the office." The correction felt significant, though I wasn't sure why. Behind her, I caught sight of a man in an expensive tuxedo. Late 50s, silver hair, confident smile. He had his arm around a woman who looked barely 30, Catherine's ex-husband. Had to be. She followed my gaze, then looked back at me. Her mask slipped for just a second. I saw something raw underneath. Pain, humiliation, rage. Then the mask returned. "I need to ask you something," she said. Catherine Hart's reputation preceded her wherever she went. At 38, she'd taken Cascade Industries from regional obscurity to national prominence. Business magazines called her the strategist who never blinks. Forbes featured her in their 40 Under 40 issue with the headline, "How Catherine Hart Built an Empire on Precision." What they didn't write about was the divorce. Thomas Whitmore, venture capitalist and serial entrepreneur, had been her husband for 7 years. They'd been the power couple of Riverstone City's business scene. Then, 6 months ago, everything imploded. The details were sealed by aggressive NDAs, but rumors circulated anyway. Infidelity. Financial disagreements. A prenup battle that left lawyers wealthy. I only knew because my daughter's teacher, Mrs. Brennan, loved gossip and had mentioned it during parent-teacher conferences. Can you imagine? Finding out your husband had been, well, I shouldn't say. But that poor woman. I'd changed the subject to Lily's science project. Now, standing in front of Catherine at this gala, I understood why she'd seemed more brittle in recent meetings, why she'd snapped at Gerald Morrison last week for a minor reporting error, then apologized immediately after, why she sometimes stared out her office window for long minutes, forgetting anyone was there. "You need to ask me something," I repeated, prompting her. She glanced over her shoulder. Thomas was watching us now. The woman on his arm, Blair, something, an Instagram influencer who'd recently launched a lifestyle brand, laughed at something, he said. The sound was performative, designed to carry. "I need a favor," Catherine said. Her voice was controlled, but I heard the hairline fracture underneath. "It's somewhat unorthodox." "Okay. Thomas is here with his fiancée. They're getting married next month." She delivered this information flatly, as if reading quarterly earnings. Preston already made a comment about emotional stability during transitions. "I need to show them I'm fine." I waited. "The next dance is starting. I'd like you to partner with me." It was a reasonable request. Inappropriate for a CEO to dance alone while her ex-husband flaunted his new relationship. Simple office politics. I could do this, then leave by 8:15. "Sure," I said. "I can do that." Relief flashed across her face. "Thank you." We moved toward the dance floor. The quartet was playing something classical I didn't recognize. Around us, other couples found their positions. I noticed Preston Vance watching with interest. Several board members had paused their conversations. Catherine stepped closer. She smelled like jasmine and something citrus. Her hand settled on my shoulder, light and correct. I placed my hand on her waist, maintaining appropriate distance. The music began. We moved together, and I was grateful for the ballroom dancing lessons my late wife had insisted on before our wedding. Basic waltz, nothing complicated. "You're better at this than I expected," Catherine said. "My wife loved dancing. She taught me. I didn't know you were married." Was, past tense. Cancer, 3 years ago. Her expression shifted. "I'm sorry. I should have known that." "Why? You're my boss, not my biographer." "Still." She was quiet for a moment. "You have a daughter, Lily, 7 years old. Currently convinced she's going to be an astronaut." A small, genuine smile touched Catherine's lips. "What does she think of you being at fancy parties?" She made me promise to remember what the desserts looked like so I could describe them tomorrow. She's very invested in cake architecture. Catherine actually laughed. Not the professional version. A real laugh, surprised out of her. Then her gaze shifted past my shoulder. Her grip on my hand tightened. Thomas and Blair had joined the dance floor. They were performing, all exaggerated dips and movements designed to draw attention. Blair's laugh rang out again. Catherine's breathing changed. Faster, shallower. "Hey," I said quietly. "You don't have to watch them. Everyone's watching everyone," she said. "That's how this works." The music shifted tempo. Couples adjusted, some leaving the floor, others arriving. Thomas and Blair remained, now closer to us, close enough that I could hear Blair's voice. "Baby, you're stepping on my dress." Catherine stiffened against my hand. I'd seen her negotiate million-dollar contracts. I'd watched her present to hostile shareholders without breaking composure. But now, with her ex-husband 10 feet away, dancing with a woman young enough to be his daughter, Catherine's carefully constructed armor showed cracks. 7 years, she said suddenly. "We were married for 7 years. Do you know when it started?" "With her?" I didn't answer. She wasn't really asking me. Our anniversary dinner, last year. He texted her from the table while I was in the restroom. Her voice was very quiet, meant only for me. I saw it when I got back, just a glimpse of his screen. "Missing you tonight. Catherine." I confronted him in the parking lot. He said it was nothing, a business associate. I wanted to believe him because believing him was easier than destroying everything we'd built. The quartet played on. Around us, other couples moved in their own orbits, oblivious. He proposed to her at the same restaurant where he proposed to me. Did you know that? I found out from a magazine spread. Venture capitalist Thomas Whitmore and lifestyle influencer Blair Hastings announce engagement at romantic Riverstone Bistro. She recited it like memorized testimony. They used the same photographer. I kept us moving, maintaining the rhythm, giving her something steady to hold on to. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. Everyone says that. Her eyes were bright, but no tears fell. Catherine Hart didn't cry at corporate galas. But they're all watching to see if I'll break. Preston wants to know if I'm emotionally compromised. Thomas wants to prove he won. And Blair, she laughed bitterly. Blair just wants everyone to know she exists. Thomas spun Blair dramatically. She squealed with delight. Several people applauded. Catherine's breath caught. "I need them to see that I'm fine, that I don't care, that he didn't destroy me." "But he did hurt you," I said, "and that's not the same as being destroyed." She looked up at me then. Really looked at me, like she was seeing me for the first time outside of quarterly reviews and budget meetings. "Why are you being kind to me?" "Why wouldn't I be?" "Because I'm not kind. Not really. I'm demanding and difficult, and I make people work overtime, and you're also human," I interrupted. "And you're hurting." The music was building toward something. I could feel it in the quartet's intensity, in the way other dancers moved with more purpose. Catherine's hand moved from my shoulder to my chest. Not suggestively. More like she needed to steady herself. "Daniel, I need to ask you something else." The real favor, warning bells went off in my head. "Okay, I need you to kiss me." I stopped moving. We stood there, frozen in the middle of the dance floor while other couples swirled around us. "What?" "Just for a moment. Right here, where everyone can see, where Thomas can see. I need him to think." She took a shaky breath. "I need him to think I've moved on. That someone else wants me. That I'm not just the woman he left behind." I saw it then, the desperation underneath her perfect composure. She wasn't asking me to dance. She was asking me to be a prop in her revenge fantasy. "Catherine, please." Her voice broke on the word. "I'll make it worth your while. Promotion. Bonus. Whatever you need. Just please, help me win this one thing." The chandelier light seemed too bright suddenly. I could feel eyes on us, though whether they were actually watching or if that was just my imagination, I couldn't say. Thomas and Blair danced past us. He caught Catherine's eye and smiled, smug and victorious. "Please," Catherine said again. "I'm not asking as your boss. I'm asking as someone who's desperate and humiliated and trying not to fall apart in front of 200 people who are all waiting to see if I'll crack. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably the babysitter, Mrs. Chen from downstairs. Lily had likely finished her homework and was negotiating for extra tablet time. I thought about my daughter, safe in our apartment, arguing about screen limits. I thought about the conversation we'd had last week when she asked why her best friend, Zoe's parents, were getting divorced. Because sometimes people stop being kind to each other, I'd told her. And when that happens, it hurts everyone around them too. Were you and Mom always kind? Lily had asked. We tried to be. We didn't always succeed. But we kept trying. Now, Catherine stood in front of me, asking me to participate in a performance designed to hurt someone, even if that someone deserved it. The music's going to end soon, Catherine said. Thomas is watching. The board is watching. This is my chance to show them all that I'm fine, that I'm more than fine, that I'm using me, I finished quietly. She flinched. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. That's exactly what you meant. I kept my voice level, not accusatory, just stating facts. You want me to kiss you so your ex-husband feels jealous or diminished or whatever emotion you're hoping for. You want the board to see you as stable and moved on. This isn't about me. This isn't even really about you. It's about them. So, you won't do it. I didn't say that. I paused, choosing my words carefully. I'm saying you need to think about what you're actually asking. You want to use a fake kiss to prove something to people who don't matter. But what does that prove? That you can play the same games Thomas played? That you're willing to manipulate someone into helping you perform happiness? The music swelled toward its crescendo. Around us, couples prepared for the final flourish. You don't understand, Catherine said. Her voice was strained. You don't know what it's like to have everyone watching, waiting for you to fail, to walk into meetings and know they're all wondering if you're about to have a breakdown, to see your ex-husband parade his new life in front of you like a trophy. You're right. I don't understand that specific situation. I met her eyes. But I understand grief. I understand humiliation. And I understand what it's like to be so desperate for people to stop pitying you that you'd do anything to prove you're fine. Then help me. I'm helping you. I'm telling you this won't work. Her jaw tightened. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because even if I kiss you right now, even if Thomas sees it and feels jealous, even if the board thinks you're perfectly stable, none of that will heal what's actually broken. It's just another mask. The final notes of the song hung in the air. Couples around us finished with dramatic poses, some dipping, some simply holding the final position. We stood there, facing each other, neither moving. Applause rippled through the ballroom. The reward, Catherine said suddenly. For the kiss. I'll make sure you get the Riverside project. Full autonomy, your choice of team, budget approval. It's a career maker. I studied her face. Saw the desperation, the pride, the barely contained panic. Catherine, I said gently. You can do better than this. The words landed between us like a stone in still water. Ripples of realization crossed Catherine's face, confusion, then shock, then something that looked like shame. What? Her voice was barely audible beneath the applause fading around us. You can do better than this, I repeated. Then using people, then performing for your ex-husband, then turning your pain into a manipulation game. Her hand dropped from my chest. You're refusing. I'm declining to participate in something that will hurt both of us. There's a difference. This was a mistake. She stepped back, her professional mask slamming into place. Forget, I asked. We should return to our respective... Wait. I didn't reach for her, didn't try to stop her physically, just spoke quietly enough that she had to stay close to hear. I'll still dance with you. No conditions, no performance, no rewards, just dancing, if you want the company. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "Why would you do that?" "Because you asked, and it costs me nothing to be kind. But Thomas will see what he wants to see regardless of what we do. If we kiss, he'll tell himself you're desperate for his attention. If we don't, he'll tell himself you've given up. You can't control his narrative. You can only control your own." The next song began, something slower, more melancholic. Couples reformed, fewer now. Some had drifted toward the bar. The excitement of the moment passed. Catherine stood frozen, a dozen micro-expressions flickering across her face, too fast to categorize. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Just dancing," she said. "Just dancing." We returned to position. Her hand on my shoulder felt different, now less desperate grip, more tentative touch. We moved together, and this time there was no performance in it, just two people occupying the same space, moving to music. "I don't know how to do this," Catherine said after a minute. "Waltz? You're doing fine." "No. This. Being honest. Not playing games. I've been playing games for so long I forgot there was another way." I thought about how to respond. My wife and I went to counseling once, just before she got sick. Not because we were having problems, but because she wanted to make sure we had tools for when problems came. The counselor said something I've never forgotten. "Authenticity is vulnerable, but manipulation is exhausting." She asked us which one we wanted our marriage to be built on. Smart counselor, expensive counselor. But yes, we turned, and I caught sight of Thomas again. He was watching us now, his expression calculating. Blair was talking animatedly, oblivious to his divided attention. "He's staring," Catherine murmured. "Let him. Doesn't it bother you? Why would it? I'm not performing. I'm just dancing with my boss at a work event. Though, if we're being authentic, I should tell you I'm really hoping to leave by 8:15. Lily will be in bed by then, but she likes to know I'm home." That surprised a small smile from her. "You're thinking about your daughter while dancing with the CEO. I'm always thinking about my daughter. It's kind of the job. Must be nice. It's terrifying. And exhausting. And the best thing I've ever done." We danced in silence for a few more measures. The tension that had coiled through Catherine's frame was loosening gradually, like a spring unwinding. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for asking you to kiss me, for trying to bribe you with career advancement. She exhaled slowly, "for all of it. Apology accepted. Just like that? Just like that. You were hurting and you made a choice you regret. That's pretty human of you. The CEO isn't supposed to be human at these events. She's supposed to be invincible. Maybe that's the problem." The song ended. We separated naturally, without awkwardness. Around us, people were beginning to migrate toward the dinner service being set up in the adjacent ballroom. The formal dancing portion of the evening was concluding. Catherine looked at me for a long moment. "I should let you go. I'm sure your babysitter is wondering where you are." "Probably. Mrs. Chen is very punctual about her rates. Thank you, Daniel. For the dance, for the honesty." She hesitated. "For not taking advantage. That's a low bar to clear. You'd be surprised how many people can't clear it." She glanced toward where Thomas stood, now surrounded by a cluster of younger executives laughing at something he'd said. "I should do the rounds, make appearances, prove I'm stable and professional and completely unaffected. Or," I said carefully, "you could just go home." She looked startled. "I can't leave. Preston expects me to sit at the head table. There's the donor recognition segment, and you're the CEO. You can leave whenever you want. You don't need permission. It's not about permission. It's about perception. Right now, you're about 5 minutes away from a very public breakdown. I can see it. Anyone who actually looks at you will see it. Staying here, forcing yourself through 3 more hours of small talk and performance, that's not strong. That's just stubborn." Catherine opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She touched her temple, where I could now see a tension headache forming. I hate that you're right. I usually am. It's very annoying to my daughter. Despite everything, she smiled. I bet. Come on. I started walking toward the exit. After a moment, Catherine followed. We passed through the ballroom's gilded doors into the hotel's marble lobby. The noise of the party faded behind us. Catherine stopped near a column, seeming to deflate now that she was out of view. I don't know what to do now, she admitted. I've been planning for this night for weeks. How I'd look, what I'd say if Thomas spoke to me, how I'd prove to everyone that I was fine. And now Now you're choosing yourself over performance. That's actually the hardest thing. She was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, how did you do it? After your wife died, how did you face people? The question caught me off guard. Honestly, I didn't at first. I took family leave, holed up in our apartment, let my sister handle most of the logistics. Lily and I just existed for a while. Ate cereal for dinner, watched too much television, cried when we needed to. That sounds nice. It wasn't. It was awful. But it was real awful, not performed awful. And eventually we came out the other side. Catherine nodded slowly. I haven't cried yet. Not once. Not when I found the texts, not during the lawyer meetings, not when the divorce was finalized. Everyone says I'm handling it so well. Maybe you're not handling it. Maybe you're just postponing it. That sounds exhausting. Manipulation is exhausting, I quoted. Remember? She actually laughed, though it was shaky. Your expensive counselor was on to something. My phone buzzed. I checked it, Mrs. Chen, asking if I'd be much longer. I need to go, I said. But for what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. Leaving, not playing games. Being honest. I don't feel right. I feel like I'm running away. Sometimes retreat is the smartest strategy. You're a good CEO. You know when to regroup. Catherine studied me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Why are you being so kind to me? I tried to manipulate you. I offered you bribes. I'm your boss, which makes the whole thing even more inappropriate. Because you're human, and you needed someone to remember that tonight. That's it. No complex motive. Most people have complex motives. Most people are exhausting. She smiled at that. A real smile, reaching her eyes. Daniel Reed, you're surprisingly wise for a man who builds model rockets with his 7-year-old. The wisdom comes from the 7-year-old, actually. She's very clear about right and wrong. Makes things simpler. We stood in the hotel lobby, the party continuing without us behind gilded doors. Through the tall windows, I could see Riverstone City's downtown lights reflecting off the harbor. It was beautiful in that way. Expensive cities are beautiful, all glitter and promise and underlying loneliness. Tell me about her, Catherine said suddenly. Your daughter. The question surprised me. In 2 years of working for Catherine, we'd never discussed personal details beyond the necessary logistics. She knew I had a child because it affected my schedule, but she'd never asked. Lily is, I searched for the right words. She's brilliant and stubborn and completely herself. She decided at age 5 that she wanted to be an astronaut, so now everything is about space. We do science experiments every weekend. Last month, we built a model of the solar system using fruit. Jupiter was a cantaloupe. Catherine's smile widened. That sounds chaotic. It was. The cantaloupe rotted, and we had to evacuate Jupiter. She cried for 20 minutes about planetary mortality. Then she announced we'd have a funeral for Jupiter and wrote a eulogy. A eulogy for a cantaloupe. A very moving eulogy. She talked about Jupiter's loyalty to its moons and its sacrifice for scientific understanding. I recorded it. For the first time that evening, Catherine looked genuinely relaxed. She sounds remarkable. She is. She's also 7. Which means she asks approximately 400 questions per day. Last night, she wanted to know why adults lie to each other. I paused. That was a fun conversation. What did you tell her? The truth. That sometimes people lie because they're scared, or hurt, or trying to protect themselves. But that lying usually makes things worse, not better, and that the people worth keeping in your life are the ones you don't have to lie to. Catherine absorbed this. Your daughter is very lucky. I'm the lucky one. She keeps me honest. Every decision I make, I think, what would Lily learn from watching this? What kind of man do I want her to see me be? Is that why you refused to kiss me? Partly. But also because it was wrong. You know it was wrong. You were asking me to participate in something that would hurt both of us. You because it wouldn't actually heal anything. Me because I'd be complicit in the manipulation. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking very clearly. You were just thinking like someone who's been hurt and wants to hurt back. That's human. But it's not who you want to be. She was quiet for a long moment, absently turning the slim bracelet on her wrist. Thomas used to say I was too honest for business. That I needed to learn to play the game better. He said my straightforward approach made me naive. Did it occur to you that he might have been projecting? What do you mean? He was lying to you, having an affair, playing games. Maybe your honesty threatened him because it highlighted his dishonesty. Catherine's expression shifted, processing this new framework. I never thought of it that way. We rarely do when we're in it. My phone buzzed again. Mrs. Chen was getting insistent. Go, Catherine said. Your daughter needs you. She needs sleep, mostly. But yes. I'm 38 years old and run a multi-million-dollar company. I think I can manage a car service. That's not what I asked. She met my eyes. I don't know if I'll be okay. But I'll be honest about not being okay, which feels like progress. It is progress. Daniel? She spoke as I turned to leave. Thank you for seeing me tonight. The real me, not the CEO version. The CEO version is pretty impressive, but the real version is braver. I left through the hotel's front entrance, where the valet had my modest sedan waiting. As I drove through Riverstone's downtown streets toward my apartment building, I thought about the evening, about Catherine's desperation, her vulnerability, her last-minute choice to walk away from performance. My phone rang through the car speakers. Marcus Chen, you left early, he said without preamble. People are talking. Let me guess. They think something happened between me and Catherine, among other theories. Thomas Whitmore is telling anyone who will listen that Catherine's mental state is concerning. Preston looks constipated with disapproval, and Blair Hastings posted a story about winning that's getting a lot of traction. I sighed. People need hobbies. This is Riverstone corporate politics. Speculation is the hobby. Marcus paused. What actually happened? Catherine asked me to dance. We danced. Then we both left because parties are terrible. That's it. That's remarkably boring. Good. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Whatever the right thing was. Catherine looked more human tonight than I've seen her in months. She is human. People forget that about bosses. Most bosses forget that about themselves. Marcus's tone shifted. Just watch your back tomorrow. Preston doesn't like disruptions to his narrative, and you've somehow become a disruption. We hung up as I pulled into my building's parking garage. Mrs. Chen was waiting in my apartment, knitting something that might have been a scarf or possibly a very ambitious sock. She's asleep, Mrs. Chen reported. Finished homework, brushed teeth, only argued about bedtime for 10 minutes instead of the usual 20. I'm calling that progress. I paid her, including the time-and-a-half fee. She left with a knowing smile, and I finally exhaled fully for the first time all evening. Lily's room was dark except for the star projector she insisted on using. Constellations rotated slowly across her ceiling. She'd kicked off her blanket, sprawled in the boneless way only children can manage. Her tablet sat on the nightstand, displaying a paused video about the Mars rovers. I pulled the blanket over her, careful not to wake her. She stirred slightly, murmuring something about astronauts. "Dad?" Her voice was sleep-thick. "I'm home. Was there cake?" "4 kinds. I took pictures on my phone. We'll analyze the structural integrity tomorrow." She smiled without opening her eyes. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, kiddo." She was asleep again within seconds. I stood there for a moment, watching her breathe, feeling the weight of the evening settle into perspective. This was what mattered. Not corporate politics or revenge plots or performing stability for people who didn't actually care. This. My daughter, safe and loved and dreaming about space. The next morning arrived too early. Lily bounded into my room at 6:30, which was offensive on a Saturday but standard for a child powered by curiosity and breakfast cereal. Dad, we need to make pancakes shaped like Saturn's rings. We need coffee first, human coffee, not 7-year-old coffee. There's no such thing as 7-year-old coffee." Exactly my point. We made pancakes. They looked nothing like Saturn's rings and more like concentric disasters. But Lily declared them scientifically interesting and ate 3. My phone buzzed. Email from Catherine, sent at 5:47 a.m. "Daniel, thank you for last night. I'm taking Monday as a personal day. Tuesday, we should discuss your leadership role on the Riverside project. You've earned it through merit, not manipulation. Also, I'd like to meet Lily sometime, if that's appropriate. I think I could learn something from someone who writes eulogies for cantaloupes." I read it twice, then showed Lily. "My boss wants to meet you. The one from the fancy party? Yeah. Is she nice? She's learning how to be. I think you'd like her." "Okay. But she has to be okay with messy science experiments. I think that can be arranged." Catherine didn't take just Monday off. She took the entire week, which shocked Cascade Industries' gossip network into overdrive. Preston called an emergency board meeting. Marcus texted me daily updates that read like war correspondences. I kept working, did my job, avoided speculation. The following Saturday, Catherine showed up at the public library where Lily and I spent most weekend mornings. I was helping Lily research Mars colony sustainability when I saw Catherine browsing the astronomy section, obviously uncomfortable in jeans and a casual sweater. "Miss Hart," Lily said loudly, "because 7-year-olds have no concept of library voice. Dad says you might like science experiments." Catherine looked startled, then pleased. "Are you good at experiments, or do you just watch?" "I don't know. I've never actually done any." Lily's expression suggested this was the saddest thing she'd ever heard. "You've never done science experiments? Like, ever? Not since school. And those were very structured. That's not real science. Real science is when you don't know what'll happen and you have to figure it out." Lily grabbed Catherine's hand with the casual authority of childhood. "Come on, we're building a water filtration system today. You can help." I watched Catherine allow herself to be towed toward our usual corner table, where I'd already spread out materials: coffee filters, activated charcoal, sand, gravel, empty bottles. "Is this okay?" Catherine mouthed to me. "It's perfect," I mouthed back. For the next 2 hours, Catherine Hart, CEO of Cascade Industries, built a water filtration system with a 7-year-old. Lily explained the scientific principles with the confidence of someone who'd watched exactly one YouTube video. Catherine listened like it was the most important presentation she'd ever heard. "See?" Lily said, pouring muddy water through their completed filter. "The big pieces get caught first, then the smaller pieces, and the charcoal takes out the weird chemicals. It's like a series of strategic checkpoints," Catherine offered. "Yes, exactly," Lily beamed. "You're good at this." Catherine looked genuinely happy. "I am, aren't I?" We went to lunch after a diner Lily loved because they served breakfast all day. Catherine ordered French toast and didn't flinch when Lily explained her entire Mars colonization plan, complete with diagrams drawn on napkins. "The hard part is water," Lily explained. But I think if we had enough filters like we made today, we could recycle everything. Nothing wasted. Closed-loop system, Catherine said. Very efficient. Exactly. I watched them bond over systems thinking and sustainability, two minds that worked in similar patterns despite a 30-year age gap. On the walk back to our car, Lily ran ahead to look at something in a shop window. Catherine and I walked in companionable silence. She's extraordinary, Catherine said. I know. You're doing a remarkable job. I'm doing my best. Some days, my best is frozen pizza and tablet time. But we survive. Daniel. She stopped walking. I want to apologize again. For that night at the gala, I was asking you to compromise your integrity for my ego. That was wrong on multiple levels. We've been over this. Apology accepted. Can we move forward? I'd like that. She hesitated. As friends? If that's not too inappropriate given our working relationship. Friends who build water filtration systems with 7-year-olds. I think that's the least inappropriate foundation possible. She smiled. Good. Lily ran back. Dad, can Miss Hart come to our apartment next week? I want to show her my model solar system. The new Jupiter. He's an orange. That depends on Miss Hart's schedule. Catherine, she corrected, looking at Lily. Call me Catherine. And yes, I'd love to see Jupiter the orange. Spring arrived slowly in Riverstone City. The harbor ice melted, trees budded, and Catherine Hart continued showing up to weekend science experiments. At first, office gossip exploded. Thomas Whitmore made pointed comments at investor meetings. Preston scheduled concerned check-ins. But Catherine, for the first time in her professional life, didn't perform damage control. She just lived her life. Let them talk, she said one Saturday while helping Lily build a model of the International Space Station from cardboard and duct tape. I'm tired of managing other people's narratives. The Riverside Project launched under my leadership. Catherine had indeed given me full autonomy. Though we both knew it wasn't a reward, it was what I'd earned through years of consistent work. The difference mattered. One evening, in early May, after Lily was asleep, Catherine and I sat on my apartment's small balcony. She'd brought wine. I'd provided the cheese and crackers. Preston's stepping down, she said without preamble. Announced it today. He said something about wanting to spend time with family. But really, I think he realized I wasn't going to break or quit or conveniently have a breakdown. I stopped being interesting to manage. How do you feel about it? Relieved. Validated. Slightly terrified about the board restructure, she sipped her wine. But mostly I feel lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for years and finally put it down. The performance weight. Exactly. God, when did you become so perceptive? I've always been perceptive. You just started paying attention. She laughed. Fair point. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights reflect off the harbor. Music drifted up from somewhere below someone's party, laughter and voices blending together. Can I tell you something? Catherine said. Something I haven't told anyone. Of course. I'm seeing a therapist. Started 3 weeks ago. She's helping me process everything. The marriage, the divorce, the way I built my entire identity around being invulnerable. That's brave. It's terrifying. But necessary. She turned to face me. She asked me about that night at the gala, about what made me finally walk away. I told her about you refusing to kiss me. I imagine that was an interesting conversation. She said, you gave me the gift of boundaries. That by refusing to participate in my manipulation, you showed me there was another way to exist. Catherine's voice was soft. She's right. You did. I just didn't want to be part of something hurtful. You showed me that being human isn't weakness, that authenticity is actually strength, that I don't have to perform perfection to deserve respect. She paused. That's a radical concept for someone who spent 15 years building armor. How does it feel? Being without the armor? Vulnerable, scary, Real. From inside the apartment, we heard a thump. Both of us tensed, but then Lily's voice called out, "Dad, I fell out of bed, but I'm okay. Need help?" I called back. "No, just wanted you to know." Catherine laughed quietly. "She's remarkable. She keeps me honest. Both of us, actually. She asked me last week if you were my girlfriend. What did you tell her? That you're my friend. And that's a more important title anyway." Catherine held my gaze. "Is it? Just friendship?" The question hung between us, honest and vulnerable and terrifying. "I don't know," I said truthfully. "I know I like spending time with you. I know Lily adores you. I know I respect the hell out of the work you're doing on yourself, but I also know we're both still healing from different wounds, and rushing into something because it feels good right now might not be fair to either of us. That's very mature. I have a 7-year-old watching my every move. Maturity is mandatory." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "What if we just keep doing this? Building water filtration systems, having wine on balconies, being honest with each other, seeing where it goes without forcing it into a definition." That sounds perfect. Really? Really. I've learned that the best things in my life weren't planned. They just happened because I was present enough to recognize them. Catherine reached across the small space between our chairs and took my hand. Not romantically. Not performatively. Just connection. "Thank you," she said. "For that night. For every Saturday since. For showing me there's a different way to be. Thank you for being brave enough to try it." Inside, Lily called out again. "Dad, can Catherine stay for breakfast? I want to make moon pancakes." We looked at each other and laughed. "Moon pancakes?" Catherine asked. "Don't ask. They're worse than the Saturn rings. I can't wait." And in that moment, sitting on a small balcony in a modest apartment, with a 7-year-old making demands from her bedroom and wine glasses catching the city lights, I realized something profound. Real connection isn't built on grand gestures or perfect moments. It's built on small choices, repeated consistently. Choosing honesty over performance. Choosing presence over pretense. Choosing to see people really see them in all their messy, imperfect humanity. Catherine had asked me to kiss her that night at the gala. A performance meant to prove something to people who didn't matter. Instead, by refusing, I'd given us both something more valuable. The space to build something real. "Come on," I said, standing. "Let's go negotiate moon pancake specifications." Lily takes her breakfast geometry very seriously. Catherine stood, still holding my hand. I wouldn't miss it for the world, and she meant it. We walked inside together, toward the sound of a 7-year-old explaining the craters of the lunar surface with absolute authority, toward imperfect pancakes and honest laughter, and the quiet revolution of choosing authenticity over armor. Thomas married Blair in a ceremony covered by lifestyle magazines. Preston retired to his vacation home. The gossip at Cascade Industries eventually found new targets, but on Saturday mornings you could find Catherine Hart in a public library, building science experiments with a little girl who believed in Mars colonies and honest conversations. You could find a single father who'd learned that the bravest thing you can say is sometimes just no. And you could find all three of them learning, slowly and imperfectly. That real strength isn't about never breaking, it's about choosing. Again and again, to be honest about the breaking, and then choosing, just as deliberately, to heal. That's not a fairy tale ending. That's better. That's real.